Welcome to today's Seidokan Saturday. I mentioned last week scenario sparring. When we do scenario sparring, as opposed to point sparring or free sparring. So if we're point sparring and he throws a punch, oh, he missed, and I throw a punch, and the teacher stops and go point, rebound, reset. Okay, there's some stuff to learn from that. But that's the sport aspect. So we want to think in terms of scenario sparring. I'm walking out of the grocery store with a bag of groceries in my hand. I'm standing here in a confrontation, and this guy's got a club, and he's ready to hit me, and all of a sudden he goes. This actually happened with a guy with a skateboard outside of a community karate program that I ran, and the kid was on property he didn't belong on, and grabbed his skateboard and was going to come at me. I'll get to that in a second. So we want to look at scenarios. Well, this is where and McCarthy Sensei's, my list of habitual acts of physical violence, the types of attacks that are likely to happen in the no, please don't situation. The difficulty with that is getting a student to make the attack realistic, but also going slow enough at first where I can work on a technique and then moving it up faster, and then fast enough that my technique actually deteriorates and I have to improvise off of the base technique. And so there are those evolutions. It's hard sometimes even getting a student to say, okay, I want you to throw a street punch. And what typically happens with a karate student when you say that? What happens? Right? It's still the step, always, they don't know how to throw a street punch, because hopefully not everybody's getting into street fights. But if you watch like backyard fights or where they pair up guys that have grudge match fights or whatever in the backyard fighting. If you watch those things, you'll see a little bit of this. But just getting somebody to step in and throw that random haymaker hook, right? I have to be able to teach how to do the wrong thing in order for them to learn to do the right thing. So we have that gap to fill. I had Max helping with the test Saturday, and I said, okay, I want the student testing, use all of his karate, but Max has to be a boxer. Well, Max, have you taken boxing? You ever been in a boxing gym and had training and worked out, got the golden gloves? No. But he had to simulate that somehow to get the attacks. So if I'm going to have Max do karate and I'm going to be the boxer, I've done a little, but I'm not great, so I'm going to be throwing my jabs and moving my head around, right? And I'm mostly just punching, and he's going to do his thing. So I'm trying to simulate the boxing movements so that he can work against that type of attack. And I say, okay, Max, now this time you're a wrestler. Well, did you wrestle? You ever trained wrestling? But he had to sort of simulate and get close to that, which meant basically he's limited to coming in and grabs takedowns, while my testing students then had to use their karate against a wrestler. Well, I coach wrestling. So I'm going to be the wrestler, and I'm trying to come in and get something, and Max is going to try to defend while I'm trying. And so he's got to use his karate against me trying to come in and wrestle him. So getting a student to play that role, doing something they've not trained in doing, so that my karate students can learn how to defend against something that is not what they're trained in defending against, you see where that kind of becomes a clash. The same problem happens in collegiate professional sports. If, for example, if the BYU football team knows they're going to play against Oklahoma, and they know Oklahoma has this particular offense that BYU doesn't run. Well, BYU has to set up a practice squad or a B squad to learn the Oklahoma offense, to run that, so BYU can learn to defend against it. And vice versa. BYU has to then practice their defensive, or the Oklahoma defensive maneuvers, so that BYU knows how to run their offense against whatever Oklahoma's defensive set is. So I'm having to simulate another team's whole game plan that I don't use. You're going to get ready to play basketball, and you're going to face the Chicago Bulls in the 90s. So you need somebody who will play the Michael Jordan on your B squad. Not even good enough to start, but he's got to simulate Michael Jordan for your team then to defend that. Or simulate Phil Jackson's triangle offense and try. I don't run the triangle offense here in the Utah Jazz. So how am I going to simulate the triangle offense that the Bulls run in order for me? You see the problem. So back in the day, we had exchanges. I used to have friends who were Aikido, Taekwondo, Tang Sudo, Jake the Snake in Jiu-Jitsu, had kickboxer guy, worked out with different wrestling teams. So I had the opportunity to train with friends in different scenarios, but not everybody has that opportunity. And so how in your dojo do you do that? Well, you have to have a guy simulate. You just have to. Now, for the self-defense side, he's going to come, let's say, what's an attack somebody would do on the street? I'm going, no, I don't want to fight. Right? Probably just the random brawl swing. Now, if he comes in real hard and fast, which hopefully I'm going to deal with, right? So he just comes in, brawler swing, go, yeah, okay? I'm going to go ahead and make my first move and do something. But that's really intimidating for a beginner. So maybe he'll do the same thing, but slower, right? And I go, okay, you got to take that first move and then I move slightly sideways, so the second one gives me more room to move. Now I can maybe come around and do some other stuff. But we have to create a scenario, train the student of our dojo as an attacker to do something that they've never done the best they can, so that when I defend against it, hopefully I can then somewhere approach that reality. That's the difficulty we're running into. We used to be able to have those exchanges. I remember back in the early 80s in my Kempo days, we'd invite other schools and we'd have friendly sparring exchanges. And in the dojo, it was nice and friendly. But if we were sparring with them and we used great control, a week later we'd hear back from those dojo, yeah, those Kempo guys don't have any power. And then if we have the same exchange with another school later and we go, okay, we're going to make a little bit of contact, and they go back to their dojos, and a week later we'd hear, yeah, those guys have no control. To your face, they're friendly, but then they're going to go back and badmouth you. And we're so politically divided in styles and organizations now that cross-training becomes really hard. You just don't walk into a jiu-jitsu school, a BJJ school, and say, yeah, I want to spar. That raises hackles, and the BJJ teacher's going to, it's very hard to create a friendly sparring scenario. Now, in fairness, most of the BJJ schools that I've gone into and the guys that I've worked with all the way up to Carlson Gracie and his kids, they're very, very amenable if you are respectful. And they can tell right away if you're being respectful or not. And if it's just a friendly sparring match, they'll tap you out very nicely. If you come in with bad blood, they're not good. But we have to create those scenarios and create the realism of those attacks. No, please, no, and he's going to do, I don't know what he's going to do, he's just going to come in. And I've got to take some action right away. Whatever I do, whether it's right or wrong, I need to move. And I'm going to come at Max now. He doesn't know what I'm going to do. Put your hands up like, no, I don't want to fight. Yeah. And he's going to do what he's going to do, and he defends himself. And hopefully within those, then we can go back and slow some things down and look at, okay? So I came in with a kick. He's going, no. So he blocked down with his left, and he did a palm heel with his right. Where does that move come from? Nowhere. It's a variation of our Seidokan YK number 2 of Niban. Okay, so I came in, and he strikes. Okay, now from there, what else could he do from here? Now I can go to Tweety, takedowns, follow-up strikes, etc. Okay, but we went fast, he responded. Beautiful. Now let's slow it down and take a look at it. The other way we can go is reverse that. Okay, hands up like you don't want to get hit. And I'm going to go, okay, and I went slowly. Now, in this case, I could say, hey, let's use your pinyan shodan bunkai. Okay, so hands up like you don't want anything. Boom. And now he's done the technique. Now, let's see if, when I just random come at him, if he can come up. Oh, he changed the technique now. Can you do the same technique when I random come at you? Okay? So we have to train that random attackness either slowly with the technique and then build up to speed, or fast, see what happens, and then go back and rehash and rework through the technique. So there are a variety of ways to approach that. But it all boils down to the same problem. Trusting enough that I know I can come in with my real attack, regardless, right? Your hands are up. You don't know what's going to happen here, right? And I'm just going to let him. I freeze for a second, let him figure it out. Okay, now it's my turn. I go, hey, I don't know what's going to happen, please. I don't want any trouble here. Just relax. And we'll do something. We didn't know what we were going to do here, but we've accumulated enough free spar experience, like I exhibited last week, some basic kind of point slow-mo experience, enough techniques that over time we build up and we can do these scenarios. Scenario training, sparring, and we can do this random. This is one that we did in Okinawa with Hokama Sensei, Tetsuhiro Okama. He's walking along the street and I dodge and I come around and I pull here and I take the pressure point, okay? I don't know this guy, but I sense bad intentions, and the minute I get by him, he looks like he's gonna do something. I block it, take the neck, take it down. Finished. So we did those kinds of things, sort of street walk-bys. Play with scenarios rather than always sit up with the free spar or the boxing or the standard karate movements. Set up scenarios. Hey, I'm standing waiting on the bus and some guy puts his hand on my shoulder like, hey buddy, give me your wallet. Right? Oh, here. I like where I have him right here. You got a sore on your head. Yeah. I'm standing here, face front, I'm at the bus stop. I go, hey buddy, give me your wallet. And he's just gonna respond. That kind of training is more useful for our self-defense. And that's where we apply our yakusoku, our bunkai, and our tui. Right? Rambled enough, that's some ideas. Arigatou gozaimasu. Play with your sparring more in terms of reality situations and less in terms of sport, boxing, aerobic, and see what that does to elevate your karate skills. And just some thoughts. Write your comments, share, and until next week, as always, let's keep practicing.